Hi there, Bryce Holdaway here, Director of Empower Wealth and co-host of Location Australia. And this is the fourth video in the four-part training series on investing in property. And really today is all about, if I knew then what I knew now, what would I do differently? Because previously we've chatted about the formula when it comes to investing in property, and that's the A, B, C, D, or the asset selection, the borrowing capacity, cash flow management, and the defence strategy. We also talked about how the industry works and showed you that there's two sides of the quadrant that the advisors live on, and if you can understand those two sides well, when it comes time for you to buy an investment property, you're able to make really sound decisions about which property you should invest in. And then the third one was all about saying, okay, well, if I know what the formula is that I need to follow and I know how the industry works, what's the process that I need to follow to be able to invest in property? And we gave you a 5-step process and really highlighted that investing in property is a process and not an event. So really what I want to chat about today is, okay, let's bring all of that together and understand really what it looks like for the typical person who's starting out, buying some property, got some income, wanting to pay off their mortgage, and then making their journey through to retirement. So what does that look like? So starts off with someone who has any sort of material level of income generally wants to park that in real estate, usually the family home. So they buy the real estate, and what usually happens with that is they have a mortgage. So they've got this thing that usually lasts for anywhere between 25 and 30 years, and they really spend a lot of time, energy and effort to pay that off as quickly as they can because it's non-tax deductible and really you're the only person who's paying that back. So it's a smart move to remove that as quickly as you can. But it's important to understand cash flow management and financial principles, and really as you make your journey towards retirement at the age of 60, you'd like to really get the best use of this income to create some wealth and some lifestyle when you retire. So it's interesting when you chat to people, if they want to get some advice on their financial matters, who would they generally go to ask for advice? And it can be anywhere up to 85 to 90% of people will automatically say someone like a financial planner is the person that they would go to. But then when you talk to the financial planning industry, they have anywhere between 10 and 20% of the market, maybe towards the middle. So 10, 15, 20% of the market actually do use a financial planner, and yet when surveyed, a very high percentage of them say that that's the person they would go to. But I might challenge that, because I think that the fact that you have a mortgage is probably the first place to start. What strategies can you have to reduce and retire that debt as quickly as you can? So the relationship with someone who understands mortgages and someone who understands strategy, I think is paramount. And when you think about it, the mortgage broking industry has somewhere between 40 to 45% of the market. So it makes sense that the first port of call is to get a investment savvy property strategist or finance strategist as part of your team, because it's really important that you retire this debt quickly. But if you think about it, there's money that comes into the household and then there's money that goes out to from the household in the form of expenses. And really, for a lot of people, there's an enemy here. And the enemy largely lives around here, and it's the living and discretionary expenditure that happens within our budget. And I would even throw out the challenge to you that most budgets just don't work. They actually measure history. It's a bit like driving down the road and looking out the windscreen that's been totally blacked out, and all you can see is the rear vision mirror. Because when you're at the checkout, or when you're at the supermarket, or when you're at the shopping mall, you generally don't have that budget with you when you're making that impulse decision. And it's not until you go back and have a look at the past where you realise, geez, I had this surplus on paper at the end of the month, but when I look at the bank account, those two aren't matching up. So really for us, property investing is part of the journey to retirement, but it really starts here in the household, because if you can reduce your mortgage as quickly as you can, and you can get two of these enemies under wraps through a system that allows you to not have to focus or worry on discretionary spending over, overspending, or living overspending. If you can have a system in place to make sure that that doesn't go out of control, and you can trap that, and through, I guess, the power of, offset facilities, through the power of having a buffer in place, if you can strategically put the mortgage and the finances in such a way that you don't have to worry about all of that, all of a sudden you can start to trap any surplus cash flow that exists once the money comes in and the money comes out. What's left over at the end of the month is what you have to then sort of move towards retirement with some form of nest egg in place. So this is the beauty. Trap the surplus, put as much as you can towards paying down the debt as quickly as you can, and then whatever's left over, you then have the opportunity to start looking at to see if you can maybe build a portfolio of assets. It can be shares, it can be holding it in cash, there's lots of alternatives, or it might be an investment property. So if you can then channel the surplus into the investment property because you've got all of this under control, and you have processes in place to help you with the investment property, because if you remember, we've got the A, B, C, D, which is the formula that you follow to buy the investment properties, and then we've shown you the 5-step process to help you build the portfolio, and we've also shown you how the industry works. You can start to see that it really isn't that difficult to build a great lifestyle, to acquire investment properties, and to do the number one priority for a lot of people is to reduce the mortgage as quickly as they can and retire that debt as quickly as they can. So you can start to see that there is now a bit of a process back home before we even start to invest in the property, but it's all interrelated. And I think that this really, understanding how all of this works is the key, because you have a property, you have an investment savvy property strategist or finance strategist who helps you work the mortgage. You have a system in place that means that the enemy of your budget, these two areas, your living expenses and your discretionary spending, if you put a system in place to make sure that there's no hemorrhage here, and that means we can start to channel all of our surplus into positive investments, you can start to see that retirement can be a very, very rewarding process for you. And we know that the government's put in place rules around superannuation so that we can provide for our retirement. But what if we could actually supplement that and add to it, so that when we get to this point here, the lifestyle that you have is quite significant? Because if you think about it, 50% of couples retire on less than $40,000 a year. Now, I'm sure you'll agree $20,000 per person isn't a significant amount of money, or 60% of single people live on less than $30,000. So you can see that money management isn't something that's universally understood, but it is actually quite simple to do, but not easy to understand. So you can see the flow that's going on here. It starts with the fact that any material income that you earn is generally parked in real estate, and for most people it's the family home, but quite often that comes with a mortgage, so that becomes the driving motivation to reduce that as quickly as we can. And it's quite often thoughts around investing isn't considered until this mortgage has been taken care of. But here's the tip. If you actually buy investment properties, and through the use of a investment savvy finance strategist, it's actually possible to reduce the mortgage quicker because you've bought an investment property. And not only will that mean that you retire debt and increase your wealth through reducing the loan balance you have, but you'll also have not just the family home as an asset, but you might have one investment property or 2 or 3 investment properties. So all of a sudden the value or your net worth or your nest egg is also increasing at the same time as the amount of your debt is decreasing. So you're just getting wealthier and wealthier as time goes on. Now, the other thing to think about here is I can't give you any advice around this space other than to say that a big part of the market is now looking to get into the self-managed super fund space, which allows you opportunities to invest in property, and also maybe bring this retirement date earlier, or effectively when you get to retirement you've got more money to spend. So if you've come to this point and you've enjoyed the videos that we've done so far, and we've helped you unpack some of the industry and the formulas and the process that it takes to invest in property. And you can now start to see that really getting a handle on the mortgage, as well as finding a system that allows you to trap any financial hemorrhage that comes around these two areas, which is the biggest enemy for most people. And let's be honest, these two areas here are generally the reason why most people can't make a significant headway into the mortgage. And let's be honest, they probably can't entertain the idea of investments. If we can put a system in place to start from the grassroots, from the fundamentals of money management within the house, it means that when you get to this retirement age here, chances are you will be retiring on a much more and significantly more income than the average currently has right now. And I guess really that's what we do at Empower Wealth. We actually have a business where the client's financial circumstances become the centre of everything we do, because it all starts here. And basically, when a client comes into our office, it starts very simply. It's a fact find. And we understand exactly what it is that that particular person is facing in their circumstances. And we tailor a solution that starts around building a system that helps them with this enemy here. We also put structure in place, and that's why it's important. I keep going back to this point here of having an investment savvy finance strategist or finance advisor in your life, but it's because this part is a huge part of our life and we need to get on top of that. So if we can get that in place and we can get that in place, that means as a company we can then help our clients become wealthier through investing in property. So if you've enjoyed this series, I'd certainly encourage you to maybe consider just filling out the appointment box here and just coming into the office and having an obligation-free chat with us. Because all we'll do is sit down and talk to you about your lifestyle design and talk about how we can help you build a wealthier tomorrow. So I hope you've enjoyed the series. I've enjoyed presenting them to you, but really this stuff here, I want to just conclude in saying this stuff here is really, really simple stuff. It genuinely is simple stuff, but the point is it mustn't be easy, because when you look at the facts, the amount of money that people are retiring on when they get to the retirement age doesn't allow them to enjoy a significant lifestyle. So if you want to have a great lifestyle and you do want to build a wealthier tomorrow, I couldn't encourage you more just to fill in the appointment form, come in and see us, and as I said before, let's look at how we can help you build a wealthier tomorrow.